I have a cousin that's an incredibly generous person when it comes to his friends. He has spent hundreds, even thousands of dollars on nights out, treating his friends without ever expecting a dollar back or any similar kind of treatment. And it's not as though his income is so high that thousands of dollars to him are like a few dollars to us. He has a modest income and lives a very modest life. But if you ask him, he'll always tell you the same thing. He loves to see his friends enjoying themselves, and so he never thinks of that money as being a waste. One look at his credit card statement will tell you just how much he must treasure his friends. The thousands of dollars he spends are incomparable to the joy he feels from treating his friends and loving them well. Today, we see an unnamed woman anoint Jesus' head with an entire alabaster flask of expensive ointment. In Mark 14, one of those who witnessed this act comment that the value of the ointment itself would have been more than 300 denarii, or greater than an average person's annual salary. This sort of ointment was a kind of purchase a person might make once in their entire life. And it's not just the ointment. Even the flask itself is made of highly precious and expensive alabaster. But the unnamed woman of Matthew 26 breaks the flask and pours out the entire content, a year's worth of wages, all out upon Jesus' head. She pours out far more ointment than a person would reasonably use. A few dabs of this highly fragrant ointment would have been sufficient, and yet she pours out the entire flask upon Jesus. This is an extravagant offering, not just in financial value, but even practical value. Think of how strong the smell coming off of you would be if you poured out an entire bottle of perfume on yourself. And remember, our modern perfumes are highly diluted forms of these ancient ointments. The reaction from Jesus' disciples is immediate. What a waste. Far more ointment than any individual could practically use, and the entirety of an annual salary gone in a moment. By every objective standard, this is an offering that makes no sense. It's the kind of offering that only makes sense to a person in love. The value of the woman of Bethany's offering doesn't come from the offering itself, but in the person she's giving it to. Her love for Jesus makes her see the world in a different way. All the things in her life are valuable insofar as they can be used for Jesus. To her, this ointment is precious, not because it is expensive, but because it is being used to anoint Jesus. Her flask is valuable, not because people value it, but because she's able to break it to serve Jesus. Her offering is valuable because it is being given to Jesus. For the woman of Bethany, Jesus is not simply a person of admiration or wisdom. He has become the very center of her life. He has become, as C.S. Lewis puts it, the thing by which she sees everything else. And Jesus' response to her offering tells us that this is exactly the kind of heart that he wants for us. To see all things in our life as valuable insofar as we can use them to honor him. He wants us to see our jobs, our past, our gifts, our finances, our possessions, our skills, not as precious things in themselves or precious because others value them, but precious because they are the context by which we can honor him and show the world that these things don't matter to us. He does. As we grow in love for Jesus, it transforms the way we see our whole lives. It is now not only our gold, but even our ashes that are valuable. We start to see that both our sufferings and our achievements, our waiting and our fulfillment, all of these are valuable because they become opportunities to make much of Jesus. Our sufferings don't discourage us because they become our chance to prove that Jesus really is worth waiting on and hoping in. The world may see no value in our suffering, but we remember that Jesus says that his power is perfected in weakness, and this is what he calls true blessedness, so we endure with joy and thanksgiving. Our achievements don't inflate us. Instead, they fill us with more humility and more gratitude. because our achievements become to us tools by which we are able to show people and ourselves that they really are nothing compared to knowing and being known by Jesus. What is or was one thing that was really important for you to accomplish today? Why was it important? Let me invite you to take a moment to reflect and to ponder. What would it look like for that same one thing to become important to you, not because of any worldly or practical reason, but because you are using it to make much of Jesus? What would need to change in your heart for that to be true? What would that change about the way that you did it? And as you ponder, let me invite you to pray that Jesus would occupy even more of your heart, and that he would give you the wisdom and the insight necessary for him to be not just an important thing to you, but to become everything to you. As we approach Easter, it is my hope and prayer that we would continue to grow in a love and devotion to Jesus. I hope you'll find some time for yourself to ponder, to meditate, and to pray today. And I hope to see you again tomorrow.